So there's no work-life balance here at all. Which begs the question, is Canada worth it to immigrate? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers to the show, think about it. It's been a long time. We are back. Thank you for welcoming us back as well. If you do like the show, please remember to hit the subscribe button. And also, if you have any issues or any topics you have in mind that we can do our research on and present to you, please don't be afraid to call the number that comes below the ticker tape or to leave a comment. And we will surely try to get to it. Today's issue and what we're going to be talking about is something that all my Canadian friends across Canada, and particularly in the province of Ontario, should be and will be able to relate to. We always start our show with a little bit of a story, and so we have a story for you today as well. Now, our story is about a friend of ours. His name is Khalid. Now, Khalid is a professional, which means he has studied in university. He is a qualified professional in the field of teaching. Now, our friend Khalid is a teacher. However, what he has noticed is in the past 5 years, his one job of teaching is not paying the bills, meaning that it's not cutting it, meaning that Khalid has to stretch out so he can own up to the expenses that he has. To name a few, he has grocery problems. What are grocery problems? Khalid states that about, not even 5 years ago, but about 6 or 7 months ago, he would spend about $800 on groceries for him, his wife, and his one child. Now he said this groceries, the list would include the essentials. You have your milk, you have your eggs, you have your bread, you have your juice, you have your fruits, and you might have, different types of meat, depending on when you go to the store and what you need. Chicken, meat, lamb, beef, you name it. So Khalid says that now the same amount of items cost about $1,500 to get for a month's worth of groceries. How much of a hike is that from $800? I'll let you do the math. Too late, $700. So $700 more is what Khalid needs just to fulfill his groceries, just to make sure that there's food on the table. Now, our friend Khalid was first living in one house, renting out, because let's face it, nobody can buy a house in this economy and this inflation. I hope you understand where I'm coming with this, because this is another point that I'm going to be talking about. So, our friend Khalid cannot afford a house, so he goes into rent. In 2020, he gets a house for rent, and he pays $2,300 for a house, a complete house. It is a townhouse, and it is 3 stories. He's happy with the house. He's living there. $2,200, not easy to make. Bi-weekly after taxes, if he gets about $1,700, that's about $3,400 in a month. $3,400 minus $2,200. It's too fast for me to do the math as well. But anyways, you can understand where I'm going with this. Minus $1,500 for groceries. And there you go. Where is he going to pay for his car, his phone, his internet, utilities of the house, and you name it, all the other different expenses that occur in our lives. So Khalid has a big issue. What does Khalid do? So our friend Khalid is currently working 4 jobs. He is a teacher in the morning, he is a teacher at night, he does private tutoring, and he does some Uber driving or something else as well. So our friend Khalid is doing 4 jobs just to maintain the ability and the standard of living that he already has, and maintain the ability to be alive, basically, in Canada, on Ontarian provincial soil. So, what's the problem here? Should you be doing 4 jobs just to get by, especially if you're a professional? What's wrong here? Everybody can complain that, oh yeah, your job or your companies don't pay you enough. Fair enough. Jobs, companies, businesses, they are businesses at the end of the day. So what are they going to do? They're going to take a look at profit margins. They're going to take a look at how much revenue they're making. They're going to take a look at their expenses. And whoever they hire to come on board to work for them, they're going to try to make sure that that person agrees to the terms and conditions. So yes, companies might be an issue, but we're not talking about them right now. They're a business like any other. Now, what happens is that Khalid's landlord says, oh, I'm selling the house, I'm moving, Khalid does not know better, and he ends up leaving his house and his residence. Long story short, 2023, Khalid is living in a house, which is a townhouse as well, which is smaller than his previous one. Now he's living in a 3-bedroom one, and previously he was in a 4-bedroom one. But now his rent is approximately $2,600 a month. Not approximately, exactly. And what is happening is now his landlord is coming to him. You all know what's happening in Canada related to housing. I don't think I need to restate it. I will talk about it, but in a different angle to stabilize the problem and the issues. Some people might like it, some people might not, but I will put some surveys and statistics right in your face, my dear viewers, so you would know exactly what we're talking about. Khalid's landlord says, hey, I need you to increase the rent. Now, according to the Rental Tenancy Act, if your house is built November 15, 2008 or prior to that date, before that date, you are under rent control. The rent control and the guidelines for the increase was 2.5%, which would mean $2,665. So $65 increase. His landlord gives him a huge story and says, yeah, you know, right now the house on the market is for $3,500. I'm not asking you to pay me $3,500, but I want you to pay me some more. And you see where I'm going with this. This is probably a story that a lot of landlords have been playing. So beware of that. Go and check the Rental Tenancies Act and find out if you are being taken advantage of. If the house was built prior to 2018, November 15, it's under rent control, 2.5. You can't take more than that. If you try to take more than that, it is, you guessed it, illegal to do so. So, landlord says, I need at least $3,000. And our friend Khalid says, no, not happening. And Khalid says, why don't you just give me the proper form? LTB, the Landlord and Tenant Bureau, if you go on the website, there are a bunch of forms. They have a lot of names. Some common names are N13s, N11s, N12s, N1s, N4s, N5s. What are these? I'll let you Google them so you know what they are. N1 is the form for rent increase. Khalid says, give me the form. And the landlord says, these forms are crap. We kind of know what the landlord is doing. So, groceries are one issue. 4 jobs is another. On top of that, now the man is facing a little bit of abuse, harassment, or some kind of a political game, and whatever the case is. And the landlord's saying, I thought we are brothers and we should talk like brothers. This is a game that people play. Now, Khalid has these problems. Do you have these problems, my dear viewers? Is rent becoming an issue? Are groceries becoming a problem? Is your salary not enough? Do you have to go out and do multiple things to make sure that you can make ends meet? I remember a long time ago, if somebody was doing 2 jobs, it was because they were saving money for something. A car, a house, a trip to Europe, or back home to Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Afghanistan, and you name it. 4 jobs just to make ends meet. So there's no work-life balance here at all. Which begs the question, is Canada worth it to immigrate? And that's the topic of today's show, my dear viewers. We are going to look at how to stabilize Canada. Now, what I will bring to you has nothing to do with the House of Commons or how Pierre and Trudeau keep going at it, or how the Minister of Housing, Minister of Defense, Minister of Finance, and other people talk about the debts that are being taken, or Justin Trudeau going to the US for a delegation or whatever the case is, or going to Jamaica for a vacation, or Pierre and his policies talking about what he should do and how he should cut taxes, or the carbon tax, or XYZ. Forget all that for a second. I'm going to bring to you, with research and statistics, what the layman in Canada needs, and some very realistic solutions, whether you like them or not. I'm just a presenter, and that's my job. So I will be doing that, and I agree 100% with these. My opinion as well. Don't hold me in court. So, 4 things. 4 things are important. Number 1, you might have guessed it. I pointed at it earlier. Housing. Number 2, healthcare/jobs. I'll explain that a bit more. Number 3, taxes. A very big issue and concern, point of debate, argumentative. We'll talk about that too. And number 4 is something that combines it all and gives us something. And that is oil. You guessed it, you named it, you heard me correctly, oil. Canada has the 3rd largest oil reserves in the world. It's right behind Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. Number 3 is Canada. We'll talk about that too. So these are 4 things that can help you stabilize Canada, that will make everybody's lives good. And when I say everybody, I mean the layman who just wants to survive and have a decent life. I don't care about business people. I'm not a businessman. I'm not here to vouch for business people. I'm not into real estate. I'm not a person who owns, maybe I do own a couple of corporations, but I still stand by this. So let's take a look at housing. What is the biggest issue that we've seen so far? Houses are being made. We have a shortage of houses. What's happening? If there's a shortage of houses, how is that there are people who own multiple? It's a common question. Logical question. I've had my 5-year-old son come and ask me this question. If we have a shortage of houses, why are there individuals who own more than one? Very valid question. And now all those people who might be business people who are looking at this, all my colleagues and esteemed colleagues who talk about real estate as well, good for you guys. I know you're looking at one angle of things and you want to see mortgage and interest rates be controlled, going up and down, Bank of Canada increasing a couple of points or not. I'm not here to talk about the discrepancies or the details of your industry. I'm here to talk about the concept of your industry. I'm here to talk about whether your industry is even a valid industry to begin with. Half of our people, a lot of people that I know, have real estate licenses as well. In fact, just today, a good friend of mine was telling me that I would be able to sell houses because I could speak. I told him, my friend, I don't have time to invest in getting a realtor license. Why? Because I myself do multiple jobs just to get by. I am your average day Khalid as well. So, here's the thing. Housing. Statistics show 2 situations that were put forward, ideal and realistic. There were 2 solutions that were put forth. The ideal situation is that no Canadian can own 2 houses until all Canadians have a house. That's the ideal scenario. 69% of Canadians agreed with that. Wow. We should put them through the House of Commons and find out what happens, because that would be pretty cool to see. But that's the ideal situation, and a lot of people would laugh at it, be like, no, but I want business. Well, good for you. You want business. Well, guess what? If you want business, I got the realistic numbers for you too. Here are the realistic numbers. If you want to own a home after owning a home, that means you have a primary residence and then you have an income residence. Make no mistake, you're not buying 2 houses because, the mortgage will pay it off and I can put it on rent and I can do this. No, none of that crap. Part of my language. Why? Because housing was not supposed to be business. Think about it logically. A house, a place where you go to rest and retire at the end of the day. A house is a place which is supposed to be a protection and a safe haven for an individual. Yet it has become commercialized, commoditized, or whatever that word might be, and it has become into a dangerous business. So what has ended up happening because of it? What ends up happening because of it is you have people who cannot buy houses anymore because there's a lot of bidding wars going on. Business people want to get into real estate. Real estate was never supposed to be a business to begin with. If you are an engineer, for the love of God, build buildings, do your engineering work. If you're a doctor, why are you getting into housing? Go help people and cure them. If you're a CPA or an accountant or a bookkeeper, guess what? You're good with numbers. Show the world what you can do with numbers. Come up with budgets and numbers that could help this deflating, crazy, inflammatory economy and inflation that is taking place in Canada. Be a benefit to society rather than trying to find a little bit of car for yourself. Which brings me to the other aspect, which isn't really on my list, but we've become very much materialistic. So we don't really care about other people. If somebody has a problem, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's sad. But when it happens to us, cry a river, right? So we don't wake up until something happens to us. That is sad, ridiculous, pathetic. Allah inik, God help you. That's all I can say. This is not how Muslims are supposed to be as well. We have an emerging population of Muslim people in Canada. I myself am, alhamdulillah, a Muslim. So why is it that we have forgotten basic constituents and oh my God, my words are going here and there as well. I have forgotten, but basically the words that I was supposed to use right now. But we have forgotten basic tenets of our religion. We've forgotten basic things that keep a society running. In fact, you don't need religion to tell you that if I take this pen from a store and I don't pay for it, I've done something wrong. That is the open book telling you you've done something wrong. That's your logic telling you that you did something wrong. Why can't we be good anymore? Why can't we be right? Which brings me back to housing. So the realistic scenario is that if you want to have a house after you've already had a house, so you have a primary resident and now you want an income one, or one that's geared to income, or that is an investment for you, investment property, then you're only allowed to have one. You have your primary and you have your investment property. Go enjoy life. Simple as that. Why have multiple? Now what I'm saying is going to break the system, crack the system, cause people to go crazy and say that, Salman, you're not talking sense anymore. Yes, I am talking sense. See, would you rather society and you and everybody sleep well at night knowing that they're not going to be out on the streets? There's enough carnage going on in the world. There are enough atrocities happening. There are enough countries that are going through apartheid right now. Discrimination, oppression, aggression. Yet the West seems to want to go and lecture these people, even though we don't have a foot to stand on because our own economies are crushing us. Let's be honest, you and I, right now, 2023, are oppressed in Canada. Specifically if you're living in Ontario. Why so? There's too much that's strangling us. 78% of people, realistic scenario, that any person who wants to have an investment property can only have one investment property. That means you have your own house, live in it, do whatever you want. You want to have one for business, one maximum. That means each Canadian, or a household, in fact, should have only 2 houses if they want one to be geared towards an investment. 78% of people have agreed to this, including homeowners. Homeowners know the issues that are going on right now. Everybody knows what the drama is right now. This is one way to stabilize things. You know why? Now I'll tell you the rationale behind it. Less people own homes, the less bidding wars that happen. Right now in Vaughan, there were 18 bids over one house that was up for sale for $800K and it was sold for 1.4. Crazy. We don't do that. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. The less people that can buy, and if you already have a house, hey, you, back of the line, you already have a house. Let's gear and look at people who don't. The better the prices of the houses will be. The less bidding wars will take place. And believe it or not, if Mattamy made a house for $300K and sold it in 2009 and now it's for 1.2 million or 1.1 million, that money is created out of thin air. That valuation of the house that refinanced whoever did was out of thin air. It was debt that was further collected, which brings Canada into a more crappier situation, and then inflation continues to rise, and these groceries from 800 go to 1,500. It's all connected, people. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You cut down the housing thing, at least 20% of your problem in Canada is gone. It doesn't matter if people buy houses or not, you can make public housing. You have public schools, make public housing. Have Mattamy rent houses out to people after they've made them for a better price than private lenders do or private owners do. And you will see Canada stabilize in many ways, and you will see other prices drop as well around you. Number 2, I talked about healthcare and jobs. After this, I'm going to be taking a short break. So number 2, healthcare and jobs. What's happening? Healthcare is an issue. Why? Because you go there and you get partially treated. That's the best way to put it. You have to still go and buy medicine even though you're paying taxes in the 30s and in the 20s percentage, which is really high. We're not Sweden, where we get everything for free. We're not Saudi Arabia or the UAE, where Emiratis and Saudis can go into a hospital and get everything done for free, all medication done in front of them, and life's good. Yeah, over the counter, they want to go and get a cough medicine, cough drop or something, they can go buy it over the counter, but that's self-diagnosing and them going on and taking medical matters into their own hands. We all do that, especially if it's something minor. And in Canada, we specifically do that because we don't want to wait for 8 hours at a hospital emergency room. So it makes sense. Healthcare. That's a long story of healthcare. We don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough doctors, we have issues going on. Yet we do have enough nurses and we do have enough doctors because half of them are driving Uber because you didn't accept their credentials. I'm sorry, but how stupid are you, Canada? I don't even have words to put into place. You've got qualified people who got points and went through your system and your loopholes, and you said jump and they said how high, they gave you everything. They did IELTS even though they knew how to speak English and they've been studying in English medium schools their entire life. And whatever the case is, they show you proof of funds. They show you how much they've worked. They had good, decent lives. Thinking they would come to Canada and the future would be brighter because you could do more in Canada and be a part of Canada. Yet they come here and find out that everything that they have is zero. Lawyers, doctors, teachers, professors, engineers, all of them face the same issue. Even bankers. Of course, banking is debatable because each country has its own banking system. That's fine. But hey, if, people in Uganda bleed green and people in Canada bleed red and then people in the US bleed blue, then yes, that's a difference. But if we don't, that means what we're doing is unnecessary red tape. We have a system that's not working. That's the problem. You have a system in place that is not working. That is the issue. And it goes for every other job as well, the different ones that I mentioned. You want to hire somebody, put a test, like an entrance test when you go to school. You want to hire a teacher who knows the theory of relativity or how to teach physics or calculus and vectors and trigonometry or whatever the case is. If a man says he's a math teacher and he's been teaching for 20 years in the past, or if a woman says that I've been teaching for the past 30 years in some school, in an IB program or this program or that program, the only thing different is terminology and the report card system and the grading system. That's not rocket science. You can explain it to a person. So when somebody comes in and says, hey, I do XYZ and I'm here for an interview, take their interview, give them an entrance test. Here you go. This is the exam, the culminating, the final exam that people in grade 12 give. 11, 10, 9, 8. Go ahead, sit down and do it. If they pass the test, hire them. Unnecessary red tape, unnecessary issues, unnecessary Canada. Unnecessary. I'm going to continue with this rant after the break. Think about it. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. I've had the opportunity to breathe. However, I'm not finished yet. Allow me to become a bit more professional rather than rant. The second or the third aspect is taxes. We talked about taxes. Now we know that taxes are increasing, whether it be carbon tax, this tax, that tax, housing tax, sales tax, you name it, all kinds of taxes that we have to go through as people. Now, we're also paying taxes that cover funds and we end up sending money to other countries. Namely, a very big conflict in the world is between Russia and Ukraine at the current moment. Apparently, Canada has supplied them and sent them a lot of money. The question is, why send them money? Why not just send them resources? Why send them money? Why not send them professionals from Canada? If we really care about Canada, then why not you have people who are Canadians who come in and who fly out to those countries to give them support? Why are we spending billions of dollars? Not millions, not thousands, billions, probably maybe trillions, and they haven't told us yet. Why are we sending so much money outside when they're Canadians who are living off of welfare, who don't have enough money for groceries, who are going down? I'm an eyewitness to this in Mississauga and Milton, different places. There are tables, good faith people, Muslim people, people from churches, people from mosques, people from, the the society, the community we live in, setting out tables on main streets, on the footpath, the curbs, having groceries, cereal boxes, sugar, milk, over there with signs below. Please take what you need. Don't take too much. You see them set it up at 9 a.m. and those tables are empty by 11 a.m. within 2 hours. Why are we sending so much money if this is the case at home? We have a saying in Urdu that, you should look into your own collar. I don't know, in Urdu it's Greban. But you should look into your own collar and take a look at yourself before you go about lecturing people or helping people out or doing things. The thing about Canada is the system might be really good. It might be a really great place to live. It might have a lot of opportunities. But guess what? The system is not working right now. Healthcare is not working properly. You're backed up. IRCC, you had the CRA, IRCC, so many government employees go up on a strike. They just came back. We're in a state of disarray. So when it comes to taxes, I think a few things should happen. Number one, you do need to reduce taxes because we're not supposed to pay and care for other people in other countries before we care for ourselves. Yes, if every single Canadian was making $1 million a year, it was a different story. But we're not. Do you know, less than 1% of Canadians make over 100 grand, $100,000 a year. So why are we caring for and sending millions elsewhere? Use those millions to build better infrastructure. Use those millions to put those doctors who are here with families of 5, 6, and 8 who have kids and who can't afford to go back to school or take time out, because give them what is called a stipend and help them study if you don't want to take away your red tape. This is what the Arab countries do. In fact, in the Gulf in specific. If you look at Bahrain, if you look at the UAE, if you look at Saudi Arabia, if you look at these countries, and the reason why I give you this example is because it's a very realistic example, and many of my viewers have actually lived in those countries. I myself came from the Middle East when I came to Canada. So, what do? To study in university, students get paid to study in university. They get paid to do training, they get paid to do a lot of stuff. So why not take all that millions that is going out, bring it in and put it as an incentive for people? So you know what? We want intelligent, smart, multilingual, not just bilingual, but multilingual people in this country who know how to use their mind and who know how to be a benefit to the economy, benefit to society, benefit to the healthcare, benefit to the system, and make it better. Put that there as an incentive and help these people. Whatever I'm saying is probably never going to come to fruition or reality because I have had the opportunity of talking to MPs. I've had the opportunity of talking to people who actually go into the House of Commons and talk every single day. And I have seen how they take this stuff. They might say yes, they might say in an ideal world. Well, why aren't we working towards an ideal world? That is the question. And we talk about gold standard of immigration. Well, you can have a gold standard, but if your system doesn't work, then what's the point? It's like you took a brick and you colored it yellow and started calling it gold. That's basically what it is. And we want more people too. Fine, that's great. Oh, the Canadian government's not going to let the housing market fall or fail or let that bubble burst. Maybe. That doesn't matter. None of that matters. Guys, if you have houses, good for you. But there should not be people who are homeless. There shouldn't be people who have issues. Simple as that. Especially if you move from another country for better opportunities. Which brings us to the third part. We're still on taxes. So on taxes, we should know exactly where the taxes are going. So every time you get your pay receipt, it should say, this much was cut off for taxes for XYZ reason. So this was cut off because it had to go to friggin', carbon. This was cut off because you have to pay taxes on sales. This was cut off for value-added tax. This was cut off for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Give a breakdown to people. And if you really want to help out other countries, have a voluntary tax. Elective. Like when you go to Walmart and you buy something or no frills or whatever, like, would you like to donate $1? Donation tax. Introduce donation tax. And those people who have a lot of money might end up actually sending $1 or $2 to countries that need it. And you can still pull that together and make it happen. Coming to the fourth point is oil. Canada has the third largest oil reserves in this world. According to statistics, we have 168 billion barrels worth of oil. Yes, some people say sand oil, this oil, that oil. Why don't we refine it? People talk about issues and problems. Well, guess what? We're already going through a lot of issues and problems. Refining that oil and making our standard of living increase a little bit and trying to bring in a little bit of that GCC model over here, because Canada is the one country that can adopt it as opposed to the US, which I heard a week ago that in 6 weeks, they won't have any money. So I'm not sure what the US's situation is, and I'm not sure if Canada's going to follow suit because we're their northern neighbors for some reason. And for some reason, we're polite to them. We're not polite to our own people, we're polite to them though. Some reputation. Invest, take out your oil, and actually become a solid player and an entity in the market. That's what you have to do. Invest in that to actually build your economy up, strengthen the Canadian dollar, strengthen our own system and economy. Inflation will fall, people will feel better, and guess what? Because we're the third largest reserve. This means we're ahead of the UAE, guys. Only Saudi Arabia and Venezuela beat us. We're ahead of Yemen, we're ahead of a lot of other countries. What does that mean? If you take a look at those countries, take a look at the UAE. I know a lot of people want to go and work in Dubai. A lot of people want to go and work in Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Al Ain, and those places. Why? Oh, better lifestyle. Oh, no taxes, no this. I'm not saying don't put taxes, maybe someday down the line, but for now, at least give your people a little bit of a relief. I'm not saying $500 in 1 year to pay for groceries. That doesn't cut it. It cuts 2 weeks and then it's gone. Either you're giving it $500 per day, that's a different situation. Then I take everything back. But if that's not the case, what are we doing? How do we stabilize Canada? Housing needs to change. 1 house per Canadian. You want to do business? You can only have 1 more. You want to buy more houses? Go back of the line until other people have had houses. Number 2, jobs, healthcare, everything that's related to making your system work. Ease of access, less red tape. Allow professionals to come in and at least illustrate what they know, so you could see how well they are and the experience that they brought to the table, and utilize them and compensate them accordingly. Number 3, taxes. We should know where they go. You should definitely reduce them because they're kind of ridiculous. If I'm paying taxes and I'm not getting medicine, if I'm paying taxes and I'm getting issues with daycare and all this other stuff happening, if I'm paying taxes and I'm still paying a lot of other stuff related to my car and all this other carbon tax and whatever the case is, why am I still having issues and why do I feel suffocated? Why does every Canadian feel suffocated? That's the issue. Reduce taxes, let us know exactly where the taxes are going, and if you really, really, really want to send money to other places and make other people's problems our problems, then have a voluntary elective tax for people to pay. And just target that at the rich people, the 1%, right? The higher people, or, Mackenzie, or other people. So, and number 4, invest in your reserves and your natural resources, which will actually boost you up and make you into a pretty big force to be reckoned with. I hope that made sense. And I hope you enjoyed my rant. Inshallah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. And for everybody who's going through issues, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you. Remember one thing as well, a little bit of faith. And we should always take Islam with us and our faith with us when we walk forward. فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Verily, with hardship comes ease. So even in the most difficult of times, say Alhamdulillah for what did not happen. It could have been worse. Within your difficult times, when you say Alhamdulillah for what did not happen, you start focusing on the positives around you. Become more positive people. Another thing that we're doing is we're becoming too cynical. We comment on everything. And we become too materialistic about things. What good am I going to get? What's going to happen? These things are only going to break you further apart. Canada is supposed to be diverse. Let's let it be diverse. Together. Progress through participation. I'm participating. Are you? Think about it. Take care. See you next show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.